The medical insurance plan that begins at the age of 60. Medi 60 from Sri Lanka Insurance. Call 0112 357 357.
In a few moments, the news.
Sri Lanka Insurance, like a father, like a mother.
This is the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation.
The time is 6:15 p.m. This is the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation. Here's the news edited by Dulvin Samarasinghe and read by Rumesh Piris. First, the headlines. The WHO assures support to overcome Sri Lanka's medical crisis. The Parliament Committee on Public Accounts finds that 6,259 million rupees worth of drugs have faced a quality failure. The UN assures assistance to Sri Lanka in addressing current economic challenges. The Governor of the Central Bank requests to reveal the public about the present critical economic situation without hiding it. Minister Kanchana Wijesekara says that although fuel prices were increased, Petroleum Corporation is still making losses. In news overseas, the US President says world faces a dark hour with Ukraine war. In sports, it's cricket. Dimuth Karunaratne and Oshada Fernandez scores half-centuries for Sri Lanka in the second test against Bangladesh. Now the local news in detail. The Parliament Committee on Public Accounts disclosed that 6,259 million rupees worth of drugs have faced a quality failure from 2011 to 2020 due to improper storage. The COPA reports further discloses that 99% of the drugs were already given to the patients when the condition was brought to attention. In this situation, it is not possible to recover the cost of quality failed drugs from the suppliers. Therefore, the Committee on Public Accounts has directed the Ministry of Health, Nutrition and Indigenous Medicine to expedite the process of facilitating the storage of drugs to ensure the safety of drugs to be implemented. It has been observed that the temperature in the warehouses owned by the Medical Supplies Division was not maintained properly and that the medical supplies were stored in the corridors of the central drug warehouses and hospitals. Minister of Foreign Affairs Professor G.L. Piris met the UN Resident Coordinator in Colombo, Hannah Sigahamde, yesterday to discuss multiple impacts arising out of the current economic situation in the country, such as supply of essential items, concerns regarding food security and livelihood matters. The minister underscored that the government has anticipated the difficulties that may arise in the times ahead and is taking precautionary measures to mitigate the impact. The UN Resident Coordinator assured Foreign Minister Professor Piris the fuller support of the UN to the government in securing international assistance in addressing the shortages of essential supplies and also the concerns relating to issues such as unemployment and malnutrition. She said that the UN would make a multi-sector appeal in this regard. Governor of the Central Bank, Dr. Nandalal Veerasinghe, requested to reveal the public about the present critical economic situation without hiding it at the Parliament Committee on Public Finance today. He requested to support positive policy decisions without considering narrow political gains. Chairman of the committee, Anura Priyadarshana Yapa, recommended to provide a full report to the committee on the policy measures to be taken and a future roadmap to gradually build a stable economy while resolving the economic crisis. The central bank governor said that $600 million allocated for the projects implemented with World Bank assistance will be utilized to purchase essential goods and services, including fuel and gas, with the agreement of the World Bank. He said that despite providing dollars, the lack of rupees by organizations such as Electricity Board, Petroleum Corporation and Nitrogas to purchase dollars due to their huge losses is a major problem. The central bank governor said that the next 3 to 4 months is critical with debt restructuring and signing agreements with the International Monetary Fund. He said that when preparing the budget during the past, the state income has been presented unrealistically, going beyond the true situation. As a result, the parliament was misled. He pointed out allocating high amounts of expenditure for ministries based on this estimated state revenue and ultimately not being able to meet the expenditure, which led to a high budget deficit, resulted in a debt trap. The central bank governor said that a mechanism is needed to properly deduct income tax. Dr. Veerasinghe further said that malpractices in exports and import industries should be prevented. This news broadcast comes to you from the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation.
The medical insurance plan that begins at the age of 60. Medi60 from Sri Lanka Insurance.
Continuing with more local news, Co-Cabinet spokesman Minister Kanchana Wijesekara says that although fuel prices were increased, Petroleum Corporation is still making losses. He said that attention has been paid to increase price of kerosene as many people are using kerosene due to the high price of gas. However, he said no decision has been taken yet to increase price of kerosene. MP Johnston Fernando arrived at the CID today to give a statement in connection with the incident that took place on the 9th at Golface Green in Colombo. He left the place about 4.5 hours later. A protest was staged this afternoon in front of the CID, demanding him to be arrested. And that concludes local news.
The medical insurance plan that begins at the age of 60. Medi60 from Sri Lanka Insurance. A health insurance plan to honor our most valued elders by the protectors of the nation. We now give our treasured senior citizens access to the very best medical insurance, specially tailored for anyone over 60. What's more, you don't need medical screening to access this policy. And Medi60 covers a wide range of illnesses. Only from Sri Lanka Insurance. Call 0112 357 357.
The main news story is brought to you by Siddhalepa Vedamahatmya.
On to the main news story. The World Health Organization representative to Sri Lanka, Dr. Alaka Singh, called on Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe today at the Prime Minister's office in Colombo. She assured him of the organization's full support to overcome Sri Lanka's medical crisis. Dr. Singh said that she was confident Sri Lanka would be able to resolve the medicine shortage by July-August under the new health program implemented by the current government. She stressed that the WHO is committed to improve the nutritional needs of infants and pregnant mothers. She further said that Sri Lanka will receive $2 million under the initial phase of its assistance program. Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe appreciated the support extended by the World Health Organization to improve the health standards of Sri Lanka, as well as the support extended by many countries. And that was the main news story.
The main news story was brought to you by Siddhalepa Vedamahatmya.
This is Watchlight.
In Watchlight this evening, National Transport Commission says fares of the Sri Lanka Transport Board and private buses will be increased by 19.5% with effect from midnight today. The minimum fare will now stand at 32 rupees. The bus fare revision comes after the Petroleum Corporation and Lanka IOC announced increases in their fuel prices this morning. And that came to you in Watchlight. A bulletin of world news is next.
Coming up, world news.
First, the headlines of the world news. The US presidency's world faces a dark hour with Ukraine war. Japanese firms invest $940 million in India. Turkish president says he no longer recognizes the leader of neighboring Greece. Now the world news in detail. US President Joe Biden told key Asian allies the world is navigating a dark hour in our shared history with Russia's invasion of Ukraine. He said the war has now become a global issue, underscoring the importance of defending international order. Japanese Prime Minister Fumio Kishida also echoed his comments, saying that a similar invasion should not happen in Asia. Mr. Biden is meeting the leaders of Japan, Australia and India in Tokyo in his first visit to Asia as president. Japanese Prime Minister Kishida Fumio is expected to reveal that Japanese manufacturers will make investments in India worth 120 billion yen. He reportedly plans to announce the figure when he meets counterpart Narendra Modi on the sidelines of the Quad Summit today. The investments, the equivalent of around $940 million, will come from 24 manufacturers. Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan has said that he no longer recognizes the leader of neighboring Greece and will refuse to meet him at a planned summit. Mr. Erdogan accused Greek Prime Minister Kyriakos Mitsotakis of seeking to block the sale of American-made F-16 fighter jets to Turkey while visiting the US. The row comes amid Turkey's threats to block a proposed expansion of NATO. Back to the headlines of the world news. The US presidency's world faces a dark hour with Ukraine war. Japanese firms invest $940 million in India. The Turkish president says he no longer recognizes the leader of neighboring Greece. And that concludes world news. Moving on to the development news. Sri Lanka's plastic recycling capabilities and infrastructure are set to improve with BPPL Holdings securing long-term funding of $15 million from the US International Development Finance Corporation. The funds raised from DFC will enable BPPL to expand its monofilament and polyester yarn operations, which use plastic waste at its primary raw material. That was development news.
Sports news is brought to you by
Sampath Bank, we present your future.
Moving on to sports, it's cricket. Today is the second day of the second test match between Sri Lanka and Bangladesh at Mirpur. Batting first, Bangladesh scored 365 in their first innings. Mushfiqur Rahim was not out on 175. Litton Das scored 141 runs. Kasum Rajitha took 5 wickets and Asith Fernando took 4 wickets for Sri Lanka. In reply, Sri Lanka was 143 for 2 wickets at close of play. Today, Dimuth Karunaratne was not out on 70 and Oshad Fernando scored 57 runs for Sri Lanka. And that was sports news.
Cash through NSP globally and win wonderful gifts locally. From October 1st, 2021 to December 31st, 2022. Remit a minimum of $100 or an equivalent amount in any foreign currency 3 times through NSB U Trust.
Business News, sponsored by National Savings Bank, the safest place for your money.
In business news, Premier Blue Chip John Keel's Holdings has reported a robust top-line performance in the 3 months to March 31st, 2022. Sri Lanka's most diversified conglomerate by revenue reported a top line of 76.1 billion rupees in the January-March quarter, recording nearly twice the revenues of 38.8 billion rupees recorded in the same period last year. And that came to you in business news.
Business News, sponsored by
Cash through NSP globally and win wonderful gifts locally. Will you be the lucky winner of the NSP Golden Jubilee? 50 gold sovereigns for the top prize winner of the NSP Golden Jubilee. Scooters for the 10 second prize winners. iPhones for the 10 third prize winners. Mountain bikes for the 29 fourth prize winners. From October 1st, 2021 to December 31st, 2022. Remit a minimum of $100 or an equivalent amount in any foreign currency 3 times through NSB U Trust.
Economic news, courtesy of
I bought my daughter a laptop for her work by managing my finances. Whatever the expenses may be, I can't afford to miss out on life's special moments like her birthday or our anniversary. So you need to invest to make your family's future flourish.
Saving money isn't easy when you have responsibilities. That's why we promise to give you the best returns and guarantee on your investment. LOLC Finance Fixed Deposits. Maximize your savings. LOLC Finance PLC, incorporated on the 13th of December 2001, is rated SLA stable by ICRA Lanka Limited and is licensed by the Monetary Board of the Central Bank of Sri Lanka under the Finance Business Act No. 42 of 2011.
In economic news, the national consumer prices rose 33.8% in April over the same month in 2021, accelerating from 21.5% in March as the after effects of the rupee depreciating against the dollar sent shockwaves across the consumer markets. This is higher than the 29.8% increase in the Colombo consumer prices reported for the same month a couple of weeks ago. And that ends economic news. The weather report is next.
Saving money isn't easy when you have responsibility. That's why we promise to give you the best returns and guarantee on your investment. LOLC Finance Fixed Deposits. Maximize your savings. LOLC Finance PLC, incorporated on the 13th of December 2001, is rated SLA stable by ICRA Lanka Limited and is licensed by the Monetary Board of the Central Bank of Sri Lanka under the Finance Business Act number 42 of 2011.
The Weather Report.
And finally, on to the weather report. The Met Department says showers or thunder showers will occur at times in the western, Sabaragamuwa and northwestern provinces and in the Kandy, Nuwara Eliya, Galle and Matara districts. Showers or thunder showers will occur at several places in the Uva province and in Ampara and Batiklo districts during the evening or night. And that concludes the weather report. Back to the headlines of the main news. The WHO assures support to overcome Sri Lanka's medical crisis. The Parliament Committee on Public Accounts finds that 6,259 million rupees worth of drugs have faced a quality failure. The UN assures assistance to Sri Lanka in addressing current economic challenges. The Governor of the Central Bank requests to reveal the public about the present critical economic situation without hiding it. Minister Kanchana Wijesekara says that although fuel prices were increased, Petroleum Corporation is still making losses. In news overseas, the US President says world faces a dark hour with the Ukraine war. In sports, it's cricket. Dimuth Karunaratne and Noshida Fernandez scores half centuries for Sri Lanka in the second test against Bangladesh. And with that, we conclude this news broadcast from the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation.